No matter what the Canadian government is trying to do, they're pretty much doing the wrong thing at every corner that they turn. You have hatred and poll loss and just so much heat on the Liberal government right now for every single thing. You have all these crazy rules and regulations and manipulation of social media companies. They're trying to strong arm like Meta and Facebook and all that stuff, and Google. You've got the territory fires and even Alberta fires where the government is just lacking. It's just carbon tax, housing crisis. There's so many things. There's so many things going wrong. And well, as crazy as it sounds, I'm kind of here to watch it happen and make videos like this to just highlight our Liberal government is incompetent, and that's why you should not vote Liberal or NDP moving forward. And I'm going to give you the tools and resources to make your decision as we get closer to the election to hopefully never repeat this ever again for Canada, because, well, Canada's not in a good spot right now. Welcome back to another video, everybody. This is going to be a pretty interesting one. We have quite a few topics to cover. The first one will be just reiterating some of the Northwest Territories fires, and we're going to look at polling, some crazy stuff that Chrystia Freeland said in front of students. She gave a speech and basically promoted communism, which is very weird. And then we're going to look at Pierre Poilievre and some of the housing crisis here in Canada. So before we do, I want to encourage you to give a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Really helps grow the channel, and turning on post notifications adds a layer of insurance to actually make sure you get notified of upcoming videos. And without further ado, let's just get into this video. So here's why it's actually really dangerous for this government standoff between these social media companies. People aren't getting the information about emergency situations in real time the way that they should, because there's a ban on Meta for social or for news, right, from CBC and CTV and all that stuff. Now, content creators such as myself, fast to the punch, don't get me wrong, but what I'm doing is, well, look at what I'm doing right now. I'm looking at CBC's website. You don't have Mr. Sunshine Baby going to all these places. You have me looking at CBC, telling you, breaking it down, and so on and so forth. So it's actually really important to have, I know it sounds weird, mainstream media journalism, because they have the resources to be everywhere at all times. And well, let's take a look at what happens when there's a ban and how it affects people in emergency situations.
A lot of the time, that's how I read my news. So if I am missing all these news outlets, I'm like, oh yeah, there is definitely something missing on Facebook.
If we can't share accurate news on one of the biggest social media platforms that we have available to us, it is very dangerous.
As fires burn near Yellowknife, many news articles are blocked on Meta's platforms. Many in the north have noticed, and many have complained. Meta is blocking news in response to a federal law that could force the companies to pay outlets, including CBC, for news links.
I would really like Facebook to pay the bill and get the news back on.
Many people use screenshot pictures to sneak local news past the block.
So Lord bless people.
So it's not Facebook that needs to pay the bill. It's the Canadian government and this communist totalitarian approach of forcing these social media companies to bend at the will of the Liberal government. It's totally unacceptable. You can't strong arm companies to pay your propaganda media outlets X amount of money because you say that that's what you want. No. So I disagree that Meta should be paying any sort of bill. I think that the Liberal government needs to stand down. And with a conservative government, they will. And there won't be these types of laws in place. It's a free market, which is why you're seeing this type of reaction in the polls, guys. This is 338 polling. You still have the Conservative Party of Canada projected to reach almost a majority government. And the Liberals are tanking, and NDP is nowhere to be found. So this is great news, fantastic, and I kind of like to pass the question off to you. Do you think that there will be a conservative majority government? I'm still very optimistic, and we're about to watch a video as to why I'm optimistic, because here we have Chrystia Freeland basically saying, you know what, let's promote communism because democracy in Canada is not working. Let's take a look at this video. This is the sad reality of liberal plague woke mindset.
Of tranquility is over, and we are living in an age of change. We're living through what President Biden, on a visit to my country in March, called an inflection point, a time of transformation he said that comes once every 5 or 6 generations. Now, like it or not, you are graduating into that inflection point. And as some of the very best educated people on our planet, you have the rare and precious opportunity to shape it. So, what is this inflection point? What is this upheaval which is going to the roots of humanity itself? There are many ways to describe this transformational moment, but I think they all come down to one fundamental question. Does capitalist democracy still work? That's the question being posed around kitchen tables in my country and this one, as parents wonder if our children can count on capitalist democracy's essential promise of a future more prosperous than our present. It is the question being posed in the muddy and bloodied trenches of Bakhmut as Ukraine's brave Democrats resist the invading forces of Putin's dictatorship.
They shouldn't be waving. They should be trying to listen to these crazy words.
By our shrinking glaciers and our warming oceans, which are asking us, wordlessly but emphatically, if democratic societies can rise to the existential challenge of climate change. Now, these are, of course, huge and fundamental challenges. I'm not here to counsel despair or retreat. Yeats famously said of another generation that came of age in a liminal moment that the best lacked all conviction, while the worst were full of passionate intensity.
She looks like a weird puppet with her arms under that robe. That's a bit of a scary speech, folks. I'm not going to lie. It sounds, and she's not the first person to say that. Justin Trudeau has been caught saying that democracy is just not working the way that they intended it to go here in Canada and in North America. So we're seeing a shift. We're seeing a shift of how the country's run to a more China-esque, North Korea-esque, communist-esque type of approach. Not just here in Canada, but also in the United States and other democratically led governments or countries. So I kind of want to pass a question off to you. How do you feel about this? Do you feel like there is a shift in how they want to approach democracy? Or do you think that, no, everything is fine? We're just going to watch the country burn. Everything is fine and going as planned. Personally, I think that these are a lot of red flags that people should be really, really waking up to. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm probably what's considered a normie. I have never voted. I've been pretty open about that. I'm excited to vote. I know it's kind of weird. I have like the biggest politics channel here in Canada on YouTube, and I've never voted. It's not how it's meant to be, and I understand my own faults in never having voted. And part of the current problem of having a Liberal government is people like myself who have never voted, who have never stood up and taken their democratic right to vote, or not just a right, but a responsibility. So I'm very excited to vote and express my democratic concerns and rights by casting a ballot. I do believe in democracy right now. I believe that Canada still can be fixed, but we have to get these radical people out of power. And I feel like this is kind of one of those Star Wars moments where it's like, Obi-Wan, you're the only hope, right? Like, I feel as if the next election is going to be the difference between Canada has a chance at staying a democratic country and becoming more of a democratic country, or we are just bought and paid for by other countries, by other private organizations, such as, you know, the World Economic Forum and things like that. So very scary, very pivotal moment here in Canadian history, and just history in general. It seems to be happening everywhere around the world, which is why it's so important to be dialed into what's happening with our country. I know a lot of people they turn a blind eye and they're like, hey, I don't care what's happening. I don't care about politics. I don't care about this. I don't care about that. But you should. You should care. And if you have friends or family that don't care, maybe send them, one of your favorite videos of mine. Just share it on Facebook or text it to them. Say, hey, man, watch this guy. He's a normie like you. He doesn't know a whole lot about politics. He's not that interested, but he's saying that you should probably wake up. And the reality is you should. We should be aware of what's going on. Because, well, that's a very scary speech that Chrystia Freeland just did. And we haven't heard anything yet from the Conservative Party of Canada since it just happened. But we're going to take a look at a video from Pierre Poilievre's YouTube channel of, well, something that they're actually criticizing for Trudeau's ministers having said this. So here we go. Let's dial in.
Just interviewed Minister Arif Irani, the Justice Minister, and he said I would need the support from Pierre Poilievre to bring on all the bail reforms.
Well, he's had our support. He didn't really say that.
Yes, he did. That's on the front page of Midweek, and that's on record.
Oh my God! Yeah. We've been calling to reverse Trudeau's catch and release bail policies for 8 years now. So the Liberal government is the one that brought in the bail system we have now, and that's why the same criminal is released within hours of being arrested. You know, in Vancouver, because of Trudeau, the same 40 offenders were arrested 6,000 times. Let me say that again. 40 offenders arrested 6,000 times. In a year, that's 150 arrests per year per criminal. Because Trudeau brought in a system that requires police release them on bail within a few hours of being arrested. The same criminal gets arrested 3 times in a day sometimes. We've been calling for an end to catch and release for years. And in fact, Trudeau has the power to do it. He's got a majority government with the coalition, with the NDP. He's had 8 years to reverse this policy. He hasn't done it. So we're ready we'll pass it this afternoon. In fact, call Mr. Virani and tell him I'm happy to bring back Parliament today, and we'll pass bail reform by midnight. Well, can you call him?
Wow.
Yeah, sure.
You'll call him?
Yes.
Okay, well, so I'm very curious to see what he says when you call him.
Okay, I promise you right after this interview, we will call Mr. Virani.
Excellent.
And tell him that this is what you requested from
Mr. Virani, you're getting a phone call. Get ready. He's going to call. Mr. Atwell is going to give you a call, and he's going to ask you to recall Parliament, pass bail reform tonight. Will you do it?
Incredible. And this type of motivation, this type of speech and behavior from the Conservative Party of Canada, but specifically the leader, Pierre Poilievre, it's really giving myself hope. And I hope that it's also giving you hope that there's people out there that want to do real change. Pierre Poilievre, it could be a branding thing, it could be a PR thing, but it's been very consistent that he has appeared to be a common person who's very concerned about the country. He was raised in, I know he's been a politician his entire life, but he was raised in a relatable way, right? I think in like Saskatchewan or Calgary. He wasn't born into a family that with a trust fund or with a, political, backing the way that Justin Trudeau was. So it's a little bit more relatable, the Pierre Poilievre's life story and his approach and the way he talks. It's just very common sense. When you hear something that's ridiculous, it's a common sense reaction to go, what? That sounds ridiculous. That's stupid. And that's how Pierre Poilievre approaches things. So not to be like too big of a band riding or bandwagon, whatever it's called, right? Not to ride his coattails too much, but it's still important to be critical of politicians and say, well, I agree with this guy on these many things, but these are kind of worrisome. That's good. And it's okay to have your guard up. But I don't know if I've ever publicly endorsed a party or an individual. Maybe I will down the road. But I mean, if you go through any of my videos, you'll see that I'm pretty heavily supportive of the Conservative Party of Canada and of Pierre Poilievre. The fact that he's able to say with the utmost confidence, without any ums and ahs and lulls in his speech and say, if that's what they want, let's get this done by midnight. Let's bring everybody back to work and get the job done. I've never heard a Liberal be that hyper-focused on solving something. In fact, it doesn't seem like they ever want to solve anything. They're there for their pensions. They're drawing things out to last as long as possible. They're playing the old school game of politics. And I understand that it's scummy, that it's gross, and that people don't want or deserve that in their lives from the leaders of a country. That's why there's a new style of politics. Be brutally honest. Do your job. Don't be focused on monetary gain because that's not what the job is. You want to be focused on monetary gain. Go be an overly qualified doctor or lawyer or a salesperson, but don't try to run a country and make policies for people. You're a public servant, so you should probably focus on serving the public. So I'd love to know what you guys think about that video down below. And we're going to end this with a final story of taking a look at this Twitter video that's gone semi-viral, I suppose. So Pierre tweeted it out saying $2,000 a month to live in a 200 square foot room in one of the most drug and crime heavy neighborhoods in Canada. Housing after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. So for those who don't know, they're trying to basically downsize everything and everyone in Canada. That's why you have the smart cities. That's why they're trying to, instill electric vehicles for everybody that have these kill switches. I'm not saying the government's trying to track you to only drive 200 kilometers away. I don't have to say that. They've said that for themselves. So let's take a look at this walkthrough of this condo or apartment or house, I suppose. I'm just going to mute it because there's some copyright music. So this is East Hastings. This is in Vancouver. And 200 square feet is not very big. It's a very minimalistic approach to lifestyle. And take it from somebody who's lived in a van for 4 years and then lived in a fifth wheel with 2 dogs and my pregnant wife, that's where we actually had the baby for about a month before I moved into a house for 8 months. So I'm very, very used to and accustomed to small little spaces and alternative styles of living. And this freaks me out because that was optionary. I was able to opt in and opt out of that, right? Optionary. I think I just made that word up. This seems to be the blueprint for housing moving forward. That is not optionary. Optional. That's the word. Where did I go to school? So look how small the kitchen is. Look how small the living room is. It's a little frightening that this is, well, first of all, $2,000 a month. Insane. I mean, most people that have, there's a lot of people, not most people, but a lot of people that have a 2,000 square foot home or even 3,000, that their mortgage could be less than $2,000 a month if they got in at the right time. A Murphy bed, because it's minimalistic and it can be tucked away. You don't get a full size fridge. You get a mini fridge and 1 sink. In my van, I have 2 sinks and a larger fridge than this. So in a van, in a vehicle that moves. That's crazy. You have a piece of plywood as a dining room table and a guest space, which is the closet. She's making a joke. Okay. That's it. And then a tiny shower that is barely big enough to hold an adult human. That's very frightening. And obviously we're in a very, very crises time for housing, which is why we need to focus a lot on that. And well, the party that focuses the most on fixing the housing crisis, expediting buildings, building excavation and building permits is the word I'm looking for, is Conservative Party of Canada and Pierre Poilievre. So if you had to make a decision right now on who would you vote for, Conservative or Liberal, I'd love to know what you guys think down below in the comments. That's where we're going to end the video. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about any of the topics or stories I covered, please let them down below in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for making it to the end of the video. If you want to support the channel financially, you can do so by checking out the merch shop linked right up there. Or if you want to do something for free, which is also absolutely acceptable and highly encouraged, you can subscribe right there. If you want to continue watching videos like this, you can do so by clicking or tapping right there to watch the next upcoming video. And if you want to watch a little bit of different content, but also Canadian stuff, you can do so by clicking right up there. That's my second channel, House of Canada, also known as the House of Commons Highlights. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.